Picture this. It's a clear night and you're gazing up at the moon through your telescope. You spot craters, glowing light, and maybe even the faint outline of the man in the moon. But have you ever wondered, what if the moon just vanished? Poof! How would our nights change? What would happen to the oceans, the seasons, and even life on Earth? We'll explore these questions to understand just how important the moon really is. Let's investigate what would happen if the moon disappeared. In today's lesson, we'll explore the moon's key characteristics, explain its fascinating synchronous rotation, identify its impact on tides, and describe how it keeps Earth's tilt stable. To understand the moon's importance to the Earth and what would happen if it vanished, let's start by exploring some of the moon's characteristics. The moon is about 1/4 the size of Earth. Think of a tennis ball representing the moon next to a basketball representing the Earth. Scientists hypothesize that the moon likely formed from a giant collision over 4 billion years ago between Earth and another object that was almost half Earth's size. Imagine the explosion that would have caused. This event left behind a chunk of molten rock. Over time, parts cooled into mountains and lava plains called maria. The moon's surface is also scarred with craters. These craters formed when comets and rocks crashed into the moon millions of years ago. These craters, mountains, and plains tell a story of a violent past frozen in time. You might remember that meteors usually burn up in Earth's atmosphere, but the moon is different. It has a very thin, almost non-existent atmosphere compared to Earth, which means there's no weather on the moon. What impact do you think having no weather has on the moon's surface features? Without weather, like wind or rain to wear them down or change them, impact craters that formed billions of years ago have remained unchanged. This makes the moon like a giant time capsule, showing what space was like long ago. This means the moon has looked just about the same throughout all of human history. So, what would it be like if the moon disappeared? Pause the video and record your thoughts in your guided notes. If the moon disappeared, we'd lose this important record of the past. We would also lose a familiar friend in the night sky that's been a big part of human history and cultures for thousands of years. But the moon doesn't just brighten our nights. It also plays an important role in how Earth behaves. In fact, without the moon, some of the Earth's key features, like its tides, tilt, and seasons, would be dramatically different. Let's explore how the moon affects each of these and what would happen if it disappeared. Have you noticed we only ever see one side of the moon? This happens because of something called synchronous rotation. That means the moon rotates at the same speed it orbits the Earth. It takes the moon about 27.3 Earth days to complete a full rotation on its axis, and 27.3 Earth days to revolve around Earth once. Because these times match up perfectly, we only ever see one side of the moon from Earth, the near side. The other side, called the far side, always faces away from us and stays hidden from view. This special situation is called synchronous rotation. So let's pause and think. How would our view of the moon change if it spun differently? What if it rotated faster or slower, revealing new craters and landscapes? We'd see all sides of the moon, revealing the far side, often called the dark side, which has been a mystery for much of history. But here's something to think about. True or false? Although we call it the dark side of the moon, it actually gets just as much sunlight as the near side. That is a true statement. The dark side isn't always dark. It's just the side that's always out of view from Earth. Now that we know the moon has a synchronous rotation with Earth, let's talk about how this affects the tides on our planet. You've probably noticed how the ocean rises and falls along the beach. That's called the tide. The moon's gravity pulls on Earth, and because water can move easily, it gets pulled toward the moon, creating a bulge, or a high tide, on the side of Earth that's facing the moon. There's also another high tide on the opposite side of Earth, because of the way gravity works and Earth's spinning. In between these bulges, there are low tides. Because the moon's position relative to Earth stays so consistent due to synchronous rotation, these tides are regular and predictable. They rise and fall roughly twice a day, and this movement is super important for life on Earth. It helps coastal ecosystems thrive and even affects human activities like fishing and boating. Thanks to the moon and its unique relationship with Earth, we get to enjoy the rhythmic rise and fall of the tides. But what would happen to the tides if the moon disappeared? Pause the video and record your thoughts in your guided notes. Without the moon's pull, tides would be much weaker, almost stagnant. This would disrupt coastal ecosystems that rely on these regular movements, like crabs, sea stars, and sea turtles that depend on tides for finding food, breeding, and laying eggs. For humans, weaker tides would impact activities like fishing and navigating boats, as well as managing coastal environments. Tides are just one way the moon influences Earth. The moon also plays a crucial role in stabilizing Earth's tilt at about 23.5 degrees, which is just right for stable seasons. Without the moon, Earth would wobble more, like a spinning top that's slowing down, causing the tilt to swing wildly. And as we know, the Earth's tilt results in different parts of the Earth receiving different amounts of sunlight throughout the year in a steady, consistent cycle. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to think. Without the moon to keep Earth's tilt steady, what might happen to the seasons as we know them? Pause the video and record your thoughts in your guided notes. Imagine a world where winter is freezing one year and hot the next, or summers that swing from scorching hot to unexpectedly cold. These extreme changes would make it hard for plants and animals to survive, disrupt farming, and even affect where and how we live. For example, crops that need specific growing conditions could fail, and animals that migrate or hibernate based on seasonal cues might struggle to adapt. Let's bring it all together. What would truly happen if the moon suddenly disappeared? The absence of the moon would lead to calmer but lifeless oceans, a wobbly Earth with chaotic seasons, and a night sky missing its most familiar companion. The moon isn't just a light in the sky. It's a key player in keeping Earth's systems balanced and life as we know it thriving. The next time you look up and see the moon, remember all it does to keep our world in harmony. Without it, life on Earth would be drastically different. Today we've explored the moon's key characteristics, explained its fascinating synchronous rotation, identified its impact on tides, and described how it keeps Earth's tilt stable. You can dive deeper into what we've covered today by exploring the additional activities for this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll explore the phases of the moon. Until then, keep looking up at the stars and remember, you are out of this world. See you soon! Hey, hey.